Hi, I've been making video essays for quite a while now and slowly gained an audience, and since I never made a special video for 1000 subscribers or even 2000, I thought, well, better late than never. So here's close to 1 hour of my video essays combined into one video, going from newest to oldest and skipping the ones I don't think are high enough quality. I'll also be explaining the history or my personal thoughts on every video, giving some insight on what the state of my channel was in at the time and my thought process behind it. Thank you for all the support. I'm also feeling a bit of burnout at the moment, so that's another reason why I'm making this first and delaying the video I'm currently working on. For this one, I don't really have anything special to say, so I'll focus on the editing. This is my newest video and the furthest away from my normal editing style. At the time, I was watching a lot of a YouTuber called Muye, and I really liked how clean his editing style was, so I wanted to try making something more clean myself. Good. What makes a game good? Is it having the most content? Is it having the largest development team? The largest budget? Is it having the most passion behind it? I don't exactly know, but there is a game that I've been playing recently that I do think is good. Cursed Tank Simulator. But if I think it's good, why doesn't the title say that? Well, before I can answer that, let me explain what Cursed Tank Simulator is. So, what is Cursed Tank Simulator? Well, at its core, it's a tank combat game. You spawn in, pick a vehicle, and head into battles against other players. You destroy enemy tanks, earn money, unlock new vehicles with said money, and slowly work your way through different tiers. If you played something like War Thunder, the general structure will probably feel familiar, but instead of being a full standalone PC game that takes 77 GB of storage, Cursed Tank Simulator is built entirely inside Roblox, and that alone already makes it kind of interesting, because Roblox games usually fall into one of two categories. Either they're extremely simple, or they're trying to do something much bigger than the platform was originally designed for. Cursed Tank Simulator definitely falls into the second category. Now, of course, Cursed Tank Simulator, or CTS, being a Roblox game does come with some limitations, but considering the platform it's running on, it's honestly kind of impressive how much is here. Oh, and yet again, I think a developer for the game is in my Discord server. They were actually the ones that suggested a video on it, so I'll put a link in the description for my Discord server if you want to join. Now, as I mentioned earlier, the gameplay loop itself is pretty simple. You spawn in, shoot enemy tanks, and earn money, and use that money to unlock more modern vehicles. At a glance, it honestly just looks like War Thunder, but inside Roblox. And on its own, that would already be kind of impressive, because the game actually includes a lot of the same systems. You've got stabilizers, thermal sights, different shell types, all the things you'd expect from a modern tank game. But weirdly enough, it even has a few things that War Thunder doesn't. For example, automatic fire control systems. So despite being a Roblox game, it's not actually missing much when it comes to core mechanics. But the thing that really makes Cursed Tank Simulator stand out is the cursed part. You don't just unlock tanks, you unlock hulls, turrets, and barrels separately, which means you can combine almost anything with anything. As such, you can create some truly cursed tank designs, like a Humvee with a 105mm cannon. Sure, a LAV turned into a striker from Temu. Hell yeah. Do you want a BTR with a LAV turret and a 105mm cannon with a PFSDS? Sure. Don't like guns? Swap the cannon and turret with a tow launcher. Screw it, there's even this land battleship type abomination. Like and subscribe if you want a land battleship. And that leads me to another point. The game isn't really focusing on realism the same way something like War Thunder is. Yes, it has real vehicles. Yes, it does have armor and armor penetration instead of the usual health bars. But the game also has vehicles that never existed, or sometimes it changes vehicles a bit for balance, such as the top tier T90 turret having APS. Another big difference compared to War Thunder is the grind, and honestly this is one of the best parts of the game. Progression here is way easier. You're unlocking new parts and vehicles much faster compared to something like War Thunder, which makes the game feel a lot less punishing to play. The game modes themselves aren't anything too unusual. You've got the classic free capture point mode that anyone who's played War Thunder will instantly recognize. There's also the mode where you capture the enemy base while defending your own. I think it's called domination in War Thunder. Here they call it battle, I'm quite sure. but there are a few extra things as well, such as King of the Hill and Capture the Flag. Nothing revolutionary, but enough variety to keep things from getting repetitive. Why I like it. Now, the thing I really like about Cursed Tank Simulator is how easy it is to just hop on and play. You don't need to wait to join a match, you can just enter a lobby, and when the match ends, you're automatically put into the next one unless you return to the garage. And if you want to leave, you can do that at any time. There's nothing forcing you to stay. The grind is also, of course, as I said earlier, way easier, which makes the game feel more fun and less like a full-time job without pay. Cough cough, War Thunder. The game also looks and feels amazing, especially for something running inside Roblox. The tank physics just look really smooth and satisfying. I mean, like, look at the way the suspension on this wheeled vehicle moves and the way that the tracks move on this tank. It's honestly just so smooth and satisfying to look at. And the idea of being able to create a vehicle that perfectly fits your playstyle is honestly great. And the game even has gambling. There's this wheel that you can spin to earn random rewards. Nothing crazy, just in-game currency and weirdly enough the premium paid currency. And these stars that you use to buy some unique vehicles. I'm honestly not entirely sure how you get tickets for it, but it seems like they're given to you just by playing the game, which means even if you play terribly, you'll still be slowly earning something. Like, honestly, the lack of greed is just so refreshing to see, especially when coming from a game like War Thunder. For reference, in War Thunder you could pay $60 or whatever for a top tier premium tank, and on top of that pay for premium account, and the grind would still take a lifetime. Like, I have over 1,700 hours on War Thunder, and I still do not have top tier tanks. Of course, I do play multiple countries, and I have made it to basically top tier for aircraft. But that's also in part due to the grind for tanks in War Thunder being way worse than aircraft. But maybe that's a topic for another video. In short, I love seeing a game similar to War Thunder have a more casual grind. Now, at this point, you might be wondering, if this game is so similar to War Thunder, why not play War Thunder instead? Because on the surface, these games share a lot of similarities. You have realistic vehicles, armor penetration, and armor values, and a progression system where you unlock more modern vehicles over time, just like War Thunder. On top of that, War Thunder has a much larger development team and is on an engine made for their game. But once you actually start playing, the differences become pretty clear. The biggest one is how seriously the games take themselves. War Thunder is trying to simulate military vehicles as accurately as possible. Armor layouts, historical vehicles, real ammunition types, everything is designed around realism. Cursed Tank Simulator doesn't really try to do that. Yes, it still uses real vehicles. Yes, it still models armor and penetration, but at the same time it lets you put some completely ridiculous combinations together. A turret from one vehicle, a hull from another, and a gun that absolutely does not belong there. On top of that, the game adds parts that don't exist in real life. Yes, War Thunder does that too, but not to this extent. That freedom completely changes how the game feels, because instead of grinding towards a very specific vehicle, you're constantly experimenting with new combinations. Another big difference is, as I said many times before, the grind. And if you played War Thunder, you definitely do know what I mean. Progression in War Thunder can take hundreds or even thousands of hours. Unlocking top tier vehicles is a massive time investment, and you probably need to pay a lot of money. Cursed Tank Simulator goes in the complete opposite direction. Progression, as I said before, is very fast. You unlock parts very quickly, and the game constantly gives you new things to try, which makes the whole experience feel more casual. In the end, these two games aren't really trying to do the same thing. War Thunder is trying to be a serious long-term military simulator, and Cursed Tank Simulator is trying to be more casual, a place where you can experiment with weird tank builds, jump into matches quickly, and just have fun blowing things up. And because of that, I don't really see them as direct competitors. They occupy very different spaces. You play War Thunder if you want a deep long-term progression system, and you play Cursed Tank Simulator if you want to hop into a match and just start causing chaos instantly. Now, all of that being said, Cursed Tank Simulator is not perfect. In fact, the biggest issue with this game isn't one massive flaw. It's a lot of small issues that slowly add up and turn into something larger than it actually is, none of which actually completely ruin the experience, but they do make the game feel less polished than it could be. So let's quickly go through all my issues with the game. The smoke detector in the garage that keeps beeping like the battery is dying is a super weird and honestly annoying decision. Tracks and wheels feel like they don't have enough grip, especially on surfaces like concrete. The cannon tilts upwards if you're too close to something, and that kinda sucks since when you're trying to peek, the cannon sometimes just is looking at the sky for some reason. Shells, mainly APHE, don't really behave the way you would expect them to. Game modes like Kill Confirmed or Capture the Flag really don't fit into the game, and the community seems to agree since no one votes for them. So at this point I think the developers should just cut their losses and remove them from the game. Top tier vehicles are only Russian tanks unless you start crafting blueprint vehicles, and those blueprints are expensive and still require additional crafting after you buy them. The T90 turret getting APS, the T90's APS being able to intercept APFSDS shots. Honestly a super weird decision since that's not how APS works at all. For reference, in real life, APS is for intercepting missiles and not really anything else, and it would never be able to intercept APFSDS due to how fast it is. The netcode issues. Tanks sometimes freezing for a moment then suddenly jumping forward. Other times you might get hit by a shot that looked like it completely missed. The lack of a kill cam, which normally could help you improve at the game since you can tell where the person who shot you is, so you can learn better positioning. Having turrets sometimes be in a different tier than the hull that they belong to. That tank sometimes appearing the same temperature as living tanks in the thermal sites on certain maps. The Afghanistan map being terrible. The game asking you to agree to the rules almost every time you log in. So like I said before, the game doesn't really have one big issue. It's just a ton of small things that add up to something larger. Now it might seem like I hate the game after this section, but I really don't. If I hated it, I wouldn't have played to tier 9. If I hated it, I wouldn't have made a video on it. I just think the game could be way better, and bringing attention to the issues with the game is what I should do in a review. Reviews should never only focus on the good parts. Oh, and one final thing before moving on. While writing the script, I noticed that the images for the components that you use to craft look AI generated, which is honestly just kinda stinky. Like, just grab a real image of the component or Photoshop something cursed since it would fit the brand. The risping is that the game used to have something else, at least that's what I've been told. The AI generated images were added recently, but why? I really do not understand why. If a developer is watching this, please do change it back. This is just stupid. So in the end, Cursed Tank Simulator is a bit of a strange game. On one hand, it's clearly inspired by games like War Thunder. You have realistic vehicles, armor penetration systems, and a progression tree that slowly moves you towards more modern tanks. But at the same time, it's something completely different. The game doesn't try to take itself too seriously. It lets you build ridiculous vehicle combinations. The grind is far more forgiving, and the whole experience feels more casual and accessible. Of course, it still has flaws. There are plenty of small issues, technical quirks, and design choices that definitely could use some polish. But despite all that, I keep coming back to it. Because underneath all those rough edges, there's generally a very fun tank game here. So circling back to the beginning, is Cursed Tank Simulator good? Well, the game is objectively good, but it's not for everyone. Some people might prefer games like War Thunder over it, and some people might not like War Thunder or this game. So the real answer is that it depends. Anyways, thank you for watching. If this game sounds interesting, I'll leave a link in the description along with an invite to my Discord server. It's free and on Roblox, so why not try it? And in this case, it's not over 70 gigabytes, so there's really nothing stopping you, unless you have something that can't run it. I also do want to apologize if my audio is a little bit wonky. I recently got some foam for my microphone and recently got a boom arm, and I'm still getting used to how to make the audio sound as good as possible using this. Anyways, special thanks to Just a Person 1000, I'm the Real Crash X, Focus Sheep, and even more thanks to Saturn QX. This voiceover sounds different because they became a member while I was editing the video. Thank you so much for becoming a member of the I'm Rich thing. I did not expect anyone to pay for that. Seriously, thank you so much. You're helping way more than you would ever expect. So extra thanks. It really means a lot to me. So yet again, thank you very much. This video is probably going to end up being my longest game overview yet, so please do tell me if you want to see more videos like this one or if you prefer my usual 8-minute long videos. Anyways, again, thank you for watching. I'll see you next time. Have a great day, and I'll see you next time. Bye. For this video, I thought the game was pretty good looking, so I decided to focus on cinematography and visuals, together with giving the game space to breathe. This meant I focused not just on showing you the game, but letting you feel the game, if that makes sense. I also focused on background music a lot, since before this video I basically just played two simple songs over and over. Stagnation. The core game genre is stagnant. There is a ton of issues within the genre, whether it be drama or repetitiveness, but what if a new game actually turned out unique and somehow interesting? The first thing you notice is that the environment is beautiful. Yes, it is made in Roblox, which is definitely a limiting factor, but it still looks amazing, especially for the size of the development team and the platform. But what even is Caesura? Well, Caesura is 100% a core game, which means that you're controlling a fictional facility with these huge lasers and, of course, a core. Your goal is to keep this wildly unstable reactor stable. Caesura is still in its very early stages. Currently it's technically a demo, and that's fair, since it was only recently released a few weeks ago. Also, fun fact, the owner of the game is actually in my Discord server, so that's pretty cool. Anyways, let's talk about the gameplay. Caesura is actually pretty hard, which, if you remember my video on why core games suck, that's actually kind of a good thing. Now, instead of just explaining every mechanic and so on, how about I just take you through a typical run of the game. The first thing you do when you spawn in is move to the control room. Here you can scan your keycard and turn on the data link wake, I think it's called. I don't remember at the time of writing the script. But before turning on the reactor, you'll need to turn on the salt water pumps, so you head to the elevator. Now that the pumps are finally turned on, you can head back and start the reactor.
Engaging reactor lasers. Please stand by.
As I mentioned earlier, the main goal is to keep the reactor stable. This is done by using the correct amount of coolant and setting the lasers at the correct levels. Once you get the hang of not exploding it, you can start thinking about getting the reactor into the Goldilocks zone. While in this state, you earn more money. But if keeping it stable and in the correct temperature wasn't enough, there's a quake system. They seem randomized and can either raise or lower the temperature of the reactor by a random amount, with some of them being way stronger than the rest. This means you can't just stabilize everything and watch YouTube shorts, since you'll have to either lower or raise the temperature in preparation of the upcoming quake. Now, let's cut the background music. There we go. Every area of this game has a vibe. It makes you feel something. It's hard to explain, so I'll just show you. The bubbling of the green sludge, the creaking of the catwalk and machinery, a certain feeling of dread, like you're somewhere dangerous. It's crazy that this is a core game, but still has such a good atmosphere. Inside the control room you feel more safe, you can hear subtle beeping and some other things. But that feeling of dread is gone. The creaking is more distant. Every place has a vibe and a different sound design. When you turn on the pumps, you can hear them whining and straining. Like guys, come on, you can't say that this isn't awesome. Now, if you look at most core games, there is kind of a pattern. They usually lack progression. They're often too easy, and a lot of them just don't feel original. So the question is, does Caesura have the same issues? First of all, lack of progression. This is probably the biggest issue with the genre. In most core games you stabilize the reactor and that's kind of it. There's no long-term goal, no real reason to push further once you figure it out. Now with Caesura it kinda improves this, but not completely. You do earn points for running the reactor, you earn more for staying in the correct zone. You get punished if you damage the shield. So the game is clearly tracking performance, but there's nothing to actually use those points for. There's no overall leaderboard to aim for the top at, it's just a number. So while it's better than most core games in that sense, it's not 100% solved yet. That being said, the game is still really early in development, so that could easily change in the future. The second issue is difficulty. A lot of core games are just too easy. Once you understand the system, you can basically stabilize everything and just go on autopilot. You could probably watch YouTube on a second monitor and nothing would happen. Caesura doesn't really let you do that. The game itself isn't super hard to understand. Right now you've got laser power, coolant, and 2 fans that you can toggle on or off. That's not complicated, but the quick system is what makes it stressful. They can stack heat over and over, sometimes even countering max coolant. And then you see that in a few minutes there's a massive one coming and you're just thinking, yeah, I'm cooked. And you barely avoid exploding. On top of that, the hotter the reactor gets, the less effective coolant becomes, so mistakes actually matter. So the game is easy to understand, but still hard to manage. And that's good. It keeps you from entering autopilot mode. It keeps you from getting bored and just exploding it yourself for fun. Although I do feel like coolant might need a slight buff. And finally, lack of originality. This is where most core games really struggle. Most of them have the same layouts, the same general ideas, and similar vibes. Caesura actually feels different. It feels like its own world. There's not really any deep lore yet, that I know of at least, but the atmosphere and presentation makes it feel like something separate. Now, there are a few things. The main menu uses music from TRG or the Reactor, which for me is a bit of a negative, since it slightly hurts the identity of the game. And yeah, there's a huge vault-styled gate that Portal also has, but it doesn't really feel out of place here. Other than that, it doesn't rely on Portal music, it doesn't rely on copying the same atmosphere, it actually feels like it's trying to be its own thing, which I have a huge respect for. Now, obviously the game isn't perfect, and since the developer is probably watching this, I'm not just going to glaze it. There are a few things that definitely need work. First, the levers don't feel great to use, they don't really move the way you would expect them to, and honestly just feel bad to use. The main menu using TRG music is also something I'm not a huge fan of, since like I said before, I think it hurts the identity of the game, and it just has such a good identity that it's trying to create. I think this is just such a weird decision to take when you're building an atmosphere that is just so amazing and such a unique world. Coolant I'm still mixed on, since it feels a bit weak at times. That could honestly just be a skill issue from me, or maybe I'm misunderstanding something. But if I can't fully tell whether it's my fault or the system, that might mean that it's not explained clearly enough, or it might just need a small balance tweak. Progression also needs to expand. Right now it's basically just points, and again it's a demo, that's fine. But long term, there needs to be something to aim for. This one isn't really an issue, but I'd love a remove UI keybind, especially for cinematic moments, since for the cinematic montage intro thing I did, I added the black bars so you couldn't see the UI, and I changed my camera settings in Roblox to hide my mouse. a really wonky way of getting something that a developer could just add a keybind for. The overheating warning sound also plays a bit too early and too often. After a while it just gets kind of annoying. The saltwater pumps were also pretty hard to find at first. I honestly spent like 30 minutes looking around before realizing that they were on another level and required the elevator. That could definitely be communicated better, and for reference, that isn't just me being stupid. I remember I entered the game together with the developer of a core game, PO, and they couldn't find it and I had to show them where it was. And one more small thing is that when you jump down from the reactor control floor to get a better view of the reactor itself, you can't jump back up, which is just annoying since you'll have to walk all the way back through the main lobby and re-enter the control room. Now, this might sound like I hate the game, but I really don't. I think it has a lot of potential and it's already a very cool project. I'm just listing some flaws so the game can be improved upon. Negativity is important for reviews, and I want to remain as honest as I can. So, is Caesura perfect? No. It has flaws. It needs more progression. Some systems need balancing. Some polish is missing. But that's not really the point. The point is that it doesn't feel stagnant. It doesn't feel like someone just copied the same control room, the same formula, the same atmosphere we've seen hundreds of times before. It feels like someone actually tried, and in a genre that's been repeating itself for years, that alone is kind of refreshing. It's still early. The game is technically still a demo. It could go in a lot of different directions. But if this is the foundation, then maybe the core game genre isn't as stuck as it feels. Maybe it just needs more projects like this. Anyways, thank you for watching. If this game sounds interesting, I'll leave a link in the description along with an invite for my Discord server. The game is free on Roblox, so why not try it? Oh, and if the developer of this game is watching, wouldn't it be like super cool if you somehow added me to the game? Just like a logo or something. I'm willing to provide some images if you need them. Anyways, special thanks to I'm the Real Crash X and Focus Sheep for becoming members of the channel. It really means a lot to me, so yet again, thank you very much. Please do consider liking and or subscribing, since I am trying to reach 10,000 subscribers before the end of the year. And I'll see you next time. Have a great day. Bye. For this one, I had been getting tired of core games for a while. I didn't really play them in my free time. I only played them for videos, to be entirely honest, and it felt non-genuine. I was also starting to feel trapped within the niche, so this was my first attempt at trying something new. On top of that, I tried my best to make the video feel high quality. It didn't do that well, sadly. The video was a failure, and that was in part due to my subscribers not clicking on it or caring about it, and as such YouTube saw it as a bad video. This made me feel way more trapped and kinda lost, to be honest, and that's why for my newest video I selected an option to not recommend it to my subscribers, and that seemed to help. Now, the video could just have been bad. Maybe if my subscribers did watch it, others still wouldn't have liked it. There's not really a way of knowing. You know how most Roblox games... Wait a minute, don't I already have a video that starts like this? Anyways, this is Forgotten Memories. The main premise is simple. You're trying to survive until 6 AM, with each night adding more mechanics making the game harder. You know, a typical FNAF fan game. But the thing that makes Forgotten Memories stand out isn't the premise itself, it's how well everything feeds into everything else. It's how good it actually feels to play, and you'll see what I mean by that in a bit. The goal is of course to survive until 6 AM. You start in your office, you get access to some cameras around the facility, and 2 doors that you close to keep things outside. There's also a puppet inside your office that you'll need to check on every now and then. Night 1 is relatively simple. You're only dealing with one animatronic, Freddy. But being able to just camp inside the office for the entire night would make the game too easy. So later on, your generators start breaking, and to fix them you'll need to exit the comfort of your office and go fix it yourself. If you don't, you'll lose power together with the ability to close your doors, and the clock loses power, so of course that means time freezes. Yeah, when clocks lose power, time just stops, right? The pizzeria also has a ventilation system that breaks. If you don't fix it in time, you'll run out of oxygen, causing you to suffocate. To fix the ventilation, you'll need to head to the arcade. The issue is that to get to the arcade, you'll need to pass by the main stage. This is conveniently also the area that Freddy likes to hang out in. If he sees you, you can hide inside these lockers that are placed around the map. For night 2, you'll need to deal with everything from the previous night, of course at a higher difficulty, together with a new animatronic. Bonnie. He likes to hang around the warehouse, or in other words, the room you usually walk through to get to the generators. So now you're forced to either try and sneak past him or take a longer route. Bonnie's addition also means that there's twice the amount of animatronics trying to get into your office. Night 3 isn't that interesting since it just adds Foxy, so we'll skip that one. But if you're playing with a friend, it's still pretty easy, since you can just get a friend to camp around the generators and have the other in the office. That means that you'll never lose power since your friend is instantly ready to fix it. Night 4 changes that. Earlier in one of the generator rooms, there was a broken down, disabled Chica. She activates on night 4. Now Chica is kinda unique since she won't try and make it into your office. Instead, she will just hang around in the area around the generators. She also won't chase you if she sees you. Instead, she functions a lot like a weeping angel. If you look at Chica, she won't move. This makes the strategy I mentioned earlier a lot harder, since your friend that had basically nothing to do before other than maybe finding out if the short he's watching is made by AI or not. Now he has to deal with Chica, so no more watching YouTube shorts for him, I guess. Night 5 doesn't change as much, other than making everything harder. It's a very hard game, at least near the end. So by the time you reach the later nights, the game isn't really testing your reaction time anymore. It's testing how well you understand the space, where things are, how long it takes to get there, what you can afford to ignore, and what you absolutely can't. And that's where Forgotten Memories really starts to work. What makes this interesting isn't a single mechanic on its own. It's the way the game constantly pushes you out of your comfort zone. Your office feels safe. That's intentional. But the game never lets that safety be enough. Power breaking forces you to move, ventilation breaking forces you to move. Later nights force you to move carefully, and every time you leave the office you're taking a risk. Not because the game tells you to be scared, but because you know what could be waiting for you. There's no cutscene, no loud warning. You just make that decision yourself. And the tension in Forgotten Memories doesn't come from jump scares, it comes from distance. From having to walk across the map and knowing that something could be there or could move the moment you look away. You're constantly weighing questions like, do I fix the generator now or can it wait? Do I take the shortcut or do I play it safe? And what I like is that the game never answers these questions for you. It lets you live with the consequences. That's why even simple tasks feel stressful. Holding E on a generator isn't hard, but doing it while listening for footsteps kinda is. Now before continuing the video, I quickly want to say that this video is sponsored by me. Living is expensive and ad revenue is not that good. So if you like my videos and want to support me, consider becoming a member of the channel, with the cheapest option being around $1 and giving priority replies to comments and a super cool badge. And the supporter, but more cool option, getting your username directly into my videos. Anyways, that's enough talking, let's get back to the video. If you're playing with friends, the game initially feels easier. Naturally roles form. One person stays in the office, one person handles generators. Everything feels solved. And then you get to night 4. Chica doesn't attack the office. She exists purely to disrupt that strategy. Suddenly the person who had it easy now actually has to pay attention. They can't look away, they can't multitask, they can't just sit there anymore. And I really like that. The game notices how you're playing, not in an AI sense but in a design sense, and it pushes back. Forgotten Memories is hard, especially near the end, but most of the time when you die it doesn't really feel unfair. It feels like, yeah, I got too greedy or I took too long. I should have moved earlier, and that's important. The difficulty comes from pressure, not randomness. That said, I do want to mention that since the Chapter 2 update, Chapter 1 does feel a bit more buggier than it used to. Some of the bugs I experienced include me dying but not dying fully, so I'm forced to stay in one spot. My flashlight had a tendency to just cease to exist all of a sudden. I did once try becoming a ghost. I couldn't sprint anymore, the animatronics ignored me and I couldn't die. I do hope that they don't get lost in trying to finish Chapter 2 and take the time to fix what they already have made, because I really do enjoy the gameplay loop in chapter 1, so let's hope that they take the time to actually fix it. Another thing is that there's an actual reason to replay nights and play them at a higher difficulty. There's a shop where you can buy things such as cosmetics or better flashlights. Higher difficulties mean you have less lives, but they give you more money. You're not just replaying nights because you lost, you're replaying them because you're getting better. Why this doesn't feel like a Roblox game? I think the biggest reason Forgotten Memories doesn't feel like a Roblox game is that it's not constantly trying to remind you that you're playing one. There's no rush to show you something flashy every 5 seconds, no unnecessary UI clutter, no mechanics that exist just to exist. The game is surprisingly patient. It lets you sit in the office and think. It lets you walk through empty hallways. It lets the tension build naturally instead of just forcing it, for the most part. And that restraint goes a long way. A lot of Roblox horror games feel like they're afraid you'll get bored if nothing happens immediately. Forgotten Memories doesn't have that fear. It trusts that the situation itself is enough. Forgotten Memories isn't doing anything revolutionary. It's not redefining horror, it's not inventing new mechanics, and it's not pretending to be something it isn't. But it understands what it wants to be. It understands the mechanics shouldn't fight each other. They should support each other. That difficulty shouldn't spike randomly. It should grow naturally, and that tension works best when it's actually earned, not forced. And because of that, the game feels good to play. Even when it's frustrating, even when you lose, even when you mess up, you usually know why it happened. And honestly, that's why Forgotten Memories sticks with me. Not because it's perfect, but because it's thoughtful. Anyways, thanks for watching. If you liked the video, please do consider liking and or subscribing, since I'm trying to reach 10,000 subscribers before the end of the year. Anyways, I'll see you next time. Bye.
Goon all night long. Nothing we gonna stop this song. Oh, maybe we will. Goon your body, come on, goon your body, goon your body, goon your body, come on, goon your
For this one, I wanted to focus less on editing and more on the words being said. I was still active within the core community at the time and started to realize why I didn't like that many of them. I started connecting the dots on what the main issues with them were and decided to make a video on it. I was expecting a lot of hate, but people actually seemed to agree with most of the things I had to say in that video. Also, the video is my second best performing video on my channel, so that does say a lot. Core games suck. This isn't clickbait. I'm not going to start talking about how, no, but that's what makes them good or something like that. They actually just suck. But before writing a angry comment, at least hear me out, because this isn't coming from someone who hates the genre. It's coming from someone who wants these games to be good. But why do I even care about core games? Well, the idea of core games is awesome. You're dropped into a massive facility, everything feels important. There are systems that need to be maintained, monitored, and understood. And that's exactly why it hurts when after an hour or two, there's just nothing left to do. Let's just use QSERF as an example because it perfectly represents the genre. You start the game. The first thing you notice is the scale. The map is huge. There's a sense that you're inside something complex and powerful. You explore a bit. You slowly find your way to the reactor control room. And when you finally get there, it feels kinda earned. You start interacting with the systems. You flip a few switches, you monitor the numbers, you keep everything stable. For a moment, it feels like you're doing a real job. But then something happens. You realize this isn't hard. Not because you're improving or anything really, it's just easy. There's not really a learning curve, you're not improving at all. Once you've learned it, that's basically it. So you start thinking, how can I make this fun? And of course your first thought is big explosion equals fun. So you cause a meltdown, you explode everything. But why does it always end with exploding everything? You know, it's easy to blame the players for this, but if your game gives players no long-term goal, they will create their own. Exploding the reactor becomes content because the game doesn't offer anything else. Failure isn't punishing, it isn't something you reflect on, it's just a reset button with a cool visual. This is the core issue with core games. You see what I did there? You don't go from learning, struggling, to mastering, and then adapting back to struggling again. You go from learning straight to boredom. There's no real reason to keep playing. There's no new mechanics to learn, no upgrades to get, no progression of any sorts. Without that, a game has no lifespan. A game being too hard can be a bad thing, yeah. If a game is unfair, poorly explained, or just punishes you for no reason, that does suck. That's not fun difficulty. But honestly, a game being too easy is way worse. When a game is too hard in a fair way, it gives you something to work towards. There's a learning curve. You don't just understand everything instantly, and that's the point. You fail, you mess up, things go wrong, but every time you understand a little more than you did before. And when you finally improve, it actually feels rewarding. Not because the game told you you did well, but because you know you did something better than last time. A hard game gives you a reason to keep playing. It gives you a reason to think about what you did wrong and how you can improve and what you could do differently next time. A game that's too easy doesn't do any of that. If everything just works the first time, there's nothing to learn, nothing to master, and of course nothing to look forward to. You hit that point where your brain just kinda checks out, and once you're bored, especially in a core game, we already talked about what happens. You stop caring, you start messing around, and eventually you blow everything up. Because that's the only way left to create any sort of excitement. The Reactor is a good example of what core games could be. It's one of the few core games with a real progression loop. It has upgrades that you can buy between shifts, there's money, so you can try breaking less next time to earn more money. Each shift gets harder due to the increasing quota, but each shift also adds new gameplay mechanics, new things to learn and keep an eye on. The Reactor can be a bit too hard, I will admit. I found myself exploding it over and over myself before looking for a guide on YouTube. That isn't perfect either, since you should be able to learn a game without outside help. But finally not exploding it felt way more rewarding than instantly understanding everything there is to know in QSCRF. Even if you've beat the Reactor, you can still play it again while trying to earn more money or trying a challenge like Hell Shift, where you basically need to complete shift 3 but everything needs to be broken at the end. And it's still in its early stages, it lacks content for sure, but it's already miles above what other core games offer, and it's sad to see. Imagine every setting in core games, the super cool worlds that they offer, but with real gameplay loops, with a reason to play them for any longer than 30 minutes. In the Reactor, failure teaches you. You don't think, oh that was funny. You think, okay, that's what I did wrong. That mindset shift is everything. It turns the game from a sandbox into an actual game. But while core games having a gameplay loop is rare, the Reactor isn't the only game trying to do this. Recently I got to test an early version of a game that someone is making. It's called Absolute Peak. It's inspired by TOG and it's in a really early stage of development, so it means a lot to me that I got to try it out. But basically the concept is that the game is split into shifts like the Reactor. You get a power quota that you need to meet. Only difference is the game is infinite. The quota keeps increasing and your bills keep getting more expensive. To counter this, you can use your profits to buy upgrades and improve the facility, of course to be able to earn more money. So basically a core game mixed with something like Repo or Lethal Company. And the crazy thing is, it's not even on Roblox, it's on itch.io. So if the idea sounds interesting, I'll leave a link in the description. This isn't an ad or anything, I actually just think it's a really cool concept and that it has a lot of potential. And for reference, don't expect anything crazy. It's being made by one guy and he's been working on it for around 2 months. It's not near being done, but honestly I thought he had spent closer to half a year to even a full year working on it based on my personal experience. So circling back to the beginning, I'm not saying core games suck out of hate for the genre. I'm saying it because they could be so much better. They have so much potential that's going to waste, and I'm saying it in hopes of seeing a change. To see core games become better, not because they're a bad idea. They don't suck because they're a bad idea. They suck because they're unfinished ideas. They build these amazing worlds and then forget to give you a reason to stay in them. Core games aren't realistic anyways, so let's at least make them fun. Give players something to learn, something to master, something to come back for. Because when core games are good, they're really good. And that's exactly why this is so frustrating. Anyways, thank you for watching. Please do consider subscribing if you liked the video. Bye. This video was made around the same time that my video on the reactor was blowing up. I found the game while in a Discord server, saw someone was playing it and it looked interesting. This video was my first attempt at trying to get a consistent editing style. I didn't keep it for long, but some of the parts stayed, such as my logo showing up and the text style. The grid and intro style stayed for a while, but was ultimately abandoned for the current black screen with dust I have now. Also, fun fact, the gameplay being in the grid isn't random. I used the grid when I wasn't showing something that I was directly talking about, and used full screen for the gameplay that matched the words that I was saying. Welcome to Scav Prototype, also known as Casualties Unknown. I'm not entirely sure which is the real name, to be honest. Anyways, it's a game about cave diving where you happen to be a furry, but it's actually way more interesting than that, so let's talk about it. The goal is simple, go as deep as you can. Actually doing it is the hard part. This game has one of the most brutal health systems I've seen. You don't just take damage, you deal with internal bleeding, infected wounds, dislocated joints, fractured bones, and a bunch of other ways your body can fall apart. You need proper rest too, and even the material you sleep on matters. If the surface sucks, your morale tanks. And for whatever reason, the game actually tracks your body weight. If you don't eat enough, you become malnourished and lose weight. Eat too much and you become obese. And of course, the deeper you go, the worse everything gets. You'll encounter landmines, jump pads that launch you, and strange structures that might contain useful loot. You also need to manage what you carry, and at the start you barely have any space. You get 2 hands, your upper back, your middle back, and your lower back. And yes, your mouth. It sounds like a lot, but it really isn't. Earlier I mentioned you need to watch your calories, but where do you even find food in a cave? Well, you can find stuff laying around or plants and occasionally meat from your comrades. Keep in mind that looking at them will drop morale. Food also rots, so you can't just hoard everything forever. The game also has a surprisingly deep crafting system. You can make pretty much anything you'll ever need, from rope made out of plants to antidepressants and shotgun ammo. I swear the last 2 things are not related. If you make it far enough down, you might encounter other survivors that are willing to trade with you. There's even a reputation system that lets you get things for a cheaper price. You can threaten the trader for a chance of getting a discount, or hug the trader for some reason. Another thing worth mentioning is the progression, or specifically the learning curve. Scav Prototype doesn't really hold your hand. There's no big tutorial telling you what to craft, what to eat, and what to avoid. It only teaches you the bare minimum. The rest you learn the hard way. Your first few runs are basically suffer simulator. You'll break bones, starve, bleed out, and die to traps you didn't even know existed. But the more you play, the more everything clicks into place. You start recognizing biome patterns. You start understanding what materials are worth grabbing and which ones are just extra weight. You learn which foods rot fast. And suddenly the game goes from feeling impossible to feeling rewarding. It's not grind progression, it's skill progression. You get better, you become more efficient, you start making smarter choices, and when you finally reach a new depth for the first time, it feels like you unlock something you genuinely earned. Not because the game handed you upgrades, but because you adapted. So basically it's like a roguelite, but the skills you unlock aren't in a skill tree, but rather simply you improving at the game. Why it's addicting. One of the funniest things about this game is that it really shouldn't be as addicting as it is. On paper it's simple, but when you actually play it, the loop hits way harder than you think. Every decision matters. Do you bring extra food or more tools? Do you sleep now or push deeper? And when you die, which you will, it never feels cheap. It feels like you almost made it, like if you had just managed your weight a little better or found one more plant, you could have gone deeper. And that almost is what keeps you coming back. There's also this natural risk versus reward thing happening constantly. If you push deeper, you might find new structures, rare items, or useful plants. But you know damn well that going down also means tripwires, landmines, and so on, and injuries you probably can't treat. It's the same kind of addicting loop you get from a roguelite, but instead of upgrading a skill tree, you're the one getting better. You learn how to prepare, you learn what items matter, you learn how to manage stress, morale, and weight. So the progression isn't on a menu, it's in your head. And that's why Scav Prototype sticks with you longer than you would expect. Before you even start the game, it sets the tone pretty brutally. Humanity has evolved technologically, but ethically, not so much. A powerful corporation begins experimenting with bioengineering, splicing human and animal DNA until they create a new species simply known as experiments. For years, these beings are tested on in private labs, but eventually the corporation wants something bigger, something more natural. So when they discover a grey planet filled with wildlife and a massive underground cave network, they see the perfect opportunity. Soon, thousands of specimens, buildings, and machines are shipped there, but due to a calibration error, large chunks of cargo end up deep inside the caves, including an important piece of experimental tech they absolutely did not want to lose. And instead of retrieving it themselves, they treat the situation like a new research opportunity. Shipment is cheap, and they have more than enough disposable bodies, so they send thousands of experiments into the caves, knowing most won't survive, and that's where you come in. You're not a hero, you aren't special, you're one unlucky specimen, and resisting is not an option. Everything I've said so far has been really positive, so it sucks that I need to bring up a negative, and this isn't about the game itself. The game is honestly great. It's about the community, specifically the roles with any kind of authority. I've been told by multiple people that some moderators are known to power trip mute people without clear reasons and generally act unprofessionally. And I even experienced some of that myself. Someone in the server got hacked, and their account started sending scam messages. The typical fake giveaway / casino stuff. The original message got deleted before I could screenshot it, but it looked something like this. But the real issue wasn't the scam message, it was how some of the moderators responded to it publicly. They said things like, and I quote, "Respectfully, what a stupid bitch. Actual born a dumbass behavior, stay the F out. Mentally deficient behavior, keep your poor monetary choice aura off my server." And one mod even jokingly said, "Unalive them." A friend of mine also mentioned getting server muted for no real reason. Now, engage with the community if you want. A lot of people there are fine, but I feel like giving a warning is the right thing to do. And again, this has nothing to do with the game. The game is fantastic. This is just something I think new players should be aware of. Scav Prototype isn't trying to be some massive, groundbreaking survival game. And it doesn't need to be. It's simple, polished, and generally fun in a way that feels very intentional. Every mechanic has a purpose, every area feels thought out, and the atmosphere carries the whole experience more than you'd think. It's not doing anything crazy or overly complex, but it doesn't have to. It's a cool project that knows exactly what it wants to be. And the best part is that it's completely free. So if any of this sounded interesting, there's really no reason not to try it for yourself, so I'll leave a link to the game's download page in the description. Anyways, thank you for watching. Please do leave a like and or subscribe for more high quality video essays, and I'll see you next time. Bye. For this one, I was finally getting into the flow of making video essays or game overviews, and I tried this game on Roblox called The Reactor. I ended up liking it a lot, but before learning it I needed a guide. But when searching for a guide I realized that there was a huge lack of content on this game, so I decided to use that to my advantage, and at first it didn't work. The video was a flop. It performed so badly that I gave up on video essays, but around 5 months after it was posted, it blew up. At the time of writing this script, it has 133,000 views. One thing I do want to note here that I didn't know at the time of making the video is that the community has some very weird traits and some people that really just suck. So I'd recommend staying away from the community and only really playing the game. If you really need a community that plays this game, my Discord server has a good amount of people who play it or at least have played it, including myself. You know how most Roblox games look and feel like, well, Roblox? This doesn't. This is the Reactor, and I think it's one of the most underrated games on the platform right now. But what is it? The Reactor is almost definitely one of Roblox's core games. That means it's complex, technical, and honestly kinda scary. You're inside this futuristic facility trying to run a nuclear reactor that was absolutely not built to code. There's buttons, switches, and panels, all designed to feel real. It doesn't exist in real life, but it looks like it could. And you're not just pressing buttons for fun, you're fighting to meet a power quota while making enough profit to survive the next shift. Oh, and the reactor, it breaks. Things leak. Systems fail. It's so cleanly made that the chaos feels immersive instead of annoying. But what makes it different from other games? Easy. The polish. Everything is just well made. No overdone UI, no weird physics, no goofy avatars doing backflips. It's surprisingly grounded, especially for Roblox, and gameplay wise I haven't found anything quite like it. Here's how a typical session plays out. You start in the lobby picking upgrades. If you made enough money last run, and trust me, making a profit isn't easy. The company's greedy, kinda like Lethal Company. But instead of shipping scrap, you're keeping a dying reactor alive while paying out of pocket for stuff like radiation treatment and coolant. Once the upgrades are set, you teleport into the facility. You head to the control room and boot up the reactor. And man, the startup animation alone made me nervous the first time. From there, it's all about keeping the system stable. Pressure builds, coolant pipes degrade, power spikes. Fires break out. If you're solo, you're juggling all of this at once. If you've got a friend, they can run around and fix stuff while you manage the control room. It's a huge help. But yeah, I've been soloing it because none of my friends really vibe with it yet. Now, let's talk about the meltdown. Technically it means you lose, but honestly, it's one of the best parts of the game. Let me paint a picture. The reactor is in stage 2. At over 18,000 Fahrenheit, suddenly your screens go dark. Mainframe failure. You tell your friend, he's rushing from the cooling room to the server room. Meanwhile, you're just stuck there watching the temperature rise. He gets there and yells, "There's a fire everywhere." He tries to fix it, but it's too late. The reactor explodes. Tell me that doesn't sound kinda fun. At first I kept blowing the thing up. I didn't even realize coolant pipes degrade over time. I thought that was just a basic system. But the more I played, the more I realized the game doesn't hand you anything. There's barely a guide, barely a community, which is kinda the problem. The game isn't one endless run, it's split into shifts, and with each shift the demand goes up. New systems unlock, new rooms open. Shift 1 gives you basic control, you're mostly dealing with the coolant and maintaining the reactor. Shift 2, the mainframe gets added, now you're fighting software failures too. Shift 3, things get wild. You get access to the reactor chamber itself to fix internal components. There's also a gravity room that opens up. And honestly, I have no idea what that's for yet. Shift 4 I still haven't made it to. If it exists, it's probably insane. But I'm not sure if it's actually a thing since I still have not beat Shift 3. Each shift feels like a new phase of the game. But why is it underrated? I see games blow up on Roblox for the most random reasons, like choose your favorite anime waifu and duel for her honor? Not sure if that's the actual title. I know there's a game like it. Thousands of players. This, the reactor, it's smart. It's clean, and surprisingly engaging, and barely anyone's playing it. If more people gave it a shot, I think there'd be a real community behind it. More guides, more content, more developer support. Right now, it just needs a little push. But why now? Games feel dry lately, even on Roblox, but this one pulled me in. I was bored, scrolling, and found a game that didn't just look different, it felt different. And when something like that shows up, I feel like it's worth talking about. You know, to be entirely honest, I don't even like Roblox that much, but the reactor, it doesn't even feel like a Roblox game. It's free, it's deep, and honestly deserves way more attention. So give it a try, bring a friend, or run solo. Either way, it's one of the most intense co-op management games I've played in a long time. And if you do try it, let me know how far you make it. Shift 3, Shift 4, if that's a thing. Leave a comment, I'm really curious. Also, if you're into high quality video essays like this one, consider subscribing. I'm Theginypig, and I'll see you next time. Bye.
I wanna goon in the lights. I want to coom on your body.
Anyways, thank you for watching. I'm well aware that this video won't perform well, but sometimes it's not just about the numbers. So thank you to everyone who took the time to watch this simple video. A new video should be out relatively soon. I've just been kinda busy since I'm about to start taking my driver's license. And of course, as I mentioned earlier, I'm relatively burned out. Thanks to my rich members, Just a Person 1000 and Saturn QX, and my cool member, I'm the Real Crash X. And yet again, thank you guys for everything. I know 2000 subscribers isn't a lot, but I'm still extremely grateful for them. Thank you for watching my videos, for commenting on them, for paying every month to support me. Thank you for talking in my Discord server, for being a lovely community. All of this really means a lot to me, so yet again, thank you very much.